Welcome back everybody, Todd here. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to keep things progressing forward with the build series on Laura's Honda NX500. We're going to tackle the engine guards today, so we're hoping this will be a pretty straightforward install, but we'll see what we're getting into, so come on with us and let's get into it. Here's our parts. We've got them all unpackaged and laid out. This is the upper and lower engine guard package from Outback Motor Tech, and I was really impressed with all the information I could find on their engine guard package for the NX500. There's several that are out there. This was not the cheapest, sure, but certainly not the most expensive either, and it's very complete. Plus, the company provides a video install, which is great to have, so you know what you're getting into. And again, looks to be very good quality, but all right, let's get this completely unpackaged and start moving forward. Here's a look at the tools that we're going to need for this install. You'll see we've got 3 end wrenches there. We've got a 10 millimeter, 12, and 13 millimeter. We've got a host of sockets. You're looking at a 8, 10, 12, and 2 14s. You're going to need a couple of ratchets and a couple of extensions. So that ought to get the job done for us. So just a final look. We've unpackaged all of it, laid it all out, organized it. There's your hardware all laid out. Obviously our tools. So we're organized and ready to go. Got to start by breaking this one loose. Once you got it loosened up, we can move on. Next, we've got to get that through bolt. You see that silver bolt way back up in there? That's got to be the next bolt to be loosened up. But we're going to take this bracket right here. You can see that I've got some blue tape on a couple of bolts. We're going to go ahead and loosen those up. That way you'll be able to move that bracket up and out of the way a little bit to give you a better angle on getting that through bolt. So that's what we're going to work on now. Now we're going to be removing these bolts that are in that bracket that I showed you earlier with the blue tape on it. And then there you go. You can see that you've got some movement anyways, and you just need enough to be able to get your socket in there. So okay, we're moving on to getting the through bolt loose. Okay, you can see what we're doing here and where we're going. So that's the nut that's on the back side of the through bolt. So we're going to go ahead and break that loose, remove that nut. Nut is off the through bolt. So go ahead, Laura, pull that through. She's on the other side. Should be able to pull that through bolt out. Or maybe, yeah, there you go. And sometimes that's going to be very hard. You might have to pound it out. Other times like this, it just came right out. So now we're removing this one that we broke loose earlier. There's a spacer behind there, so I'm going to get your finger in there because that will fall out on you. And you may want to note too, there's, as you take it apart, there's going to be a washer on it. So just make note of how it goes back together. And just like that. Okay. We're at that point where we're going to install the lower engine guard. They supply you with a longer through bolt and the bushing there. So you can see that you're going to have to take the through bolt out, snake it around to get it back in there. Then you're going to have to get that spacer on the inside there. So it's going to be a little bit of a dance to get it all put back together, but definitely doable. So we're putting this back together in the front. So the challenge is you got to get that spacer held in there. You got to bring the crash bar up, line it up, get the bolt in there, and do all that dancing without losing it. And it looks like we're successfully threaded, or close to it. Once the threads grab, you're kind of home free, but until that happens, it's a dance. All right, we'll get that hand tightened and we'll be back. Okay, we're gonna break this one loose. Here we go. And it's just a matter of kind of getting that ready to go, because we'll be installing the other lower crash bar on this side. Okay, it's loosened all the way up. We're going to pull this out of here now. Again, that spacer is going to drop right out. We're just going to set those aside for the moment. So she's going to grab the crash bar, but right there is the through bolt, and this is going to be a lot easier to get this one back together. So we're going to use the OEM washer and nut that came off of there to go back on. You're going to want to keep the through bolt pulled back a little bit so that you can snake the crash bar behind that and tuck it up there. If you put that through bolt all the way through, you won't be able to get the lower crash bar on. So not a big deal. You just pull that back from the other side, feed it in. There's a spacer on the back side of that, you can see. Then it's pushed through like that. Once you've got it on, just have somebody else push it through, and it's held in there fine. Then this one will line up just fine. We've got the lower bar on, and we're now moving on. And the next step is to come up here underneath. You can see that bolt right there. And basically we've got to take both of those bolts off to get a bracket in there. We remove the OEM bolts out of there. Then they supply you with replacements that are longer. So we've gone ahead and stuck those through. Now we've got the bracket. This bracket's going to go up in there. It goes right on those. And then we've got a washer and a couple of nuts. We'll get those on. I'll be right back. So the bracket is on. Now it's just a matter of snugging all that up. We're back on the side of the bike, and we're going to be removing that bolt right there. You'll notice there is a big spacer in there, so get your hand in there, be ready. May or may not fall out, but better plan that it might. And it looks like the spacer is going to stay right there. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and put the bracket on, or the crash bar on, and it's just a matter of threading this nut on there and getting it to grab and get it on there well enough that it's not going to pop off, and then leave it dangle, because we'll come back around the other side. And here we're going to grab that bolt that we pulled out before. We're going to stick it right back in there where it came from. You're going to leave it loose because we've got to line all of this up. Okay, here we go. You've got basically that bracket. There's a bottom bracket right here that goes on there. We've dropped the bolts down through, and then you got to throw a nut on the bottom and pin those two together. So that's what we're working on now. So we've got that a little more than hand tightened up here. And so, you know, it goes in the top there. It's going to hand tighten onto there. Up here, that's just hand tight at this point. And it's important to leave it all loose so you can really begin to pull it together here, and then you'll start working your way around and tightening everything up. But you can see it's starting to come together. And so now we're going to do the upper engine guard on the brake side. So we'll be moving over here and we'll just do the same thing. We've got all the bars on now. Everything's still hand tightened and loose. So the next step really is to begin to just rotate around the bike and start to firm everything up. And that's what we're doing here. We're just going to go all the way around, just kind of keep rotating and start firming everything up. Well, there we are. That's a wrap. The bars are on. They look good. They fit good. Kind of give a walk around here. There really were no issues. I mean, everything went together just fine. You know, these things always take longer than you figure that they would, but I would say if you have two people, you know, that second set of hands goes a long ways. But if you've got two people, you're not filming it like we've been doing, I would allow at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half to work your way through it. That way you're not rushing yourself. You can kind of go back and forth. Yeah, not a difficult install and definitely a nice addition to the bike. We're going to call that a wrap for this video. Hey, I really appreciate you guys tagging along as always. Do me a favor and hit that like button. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. And then we've got plenty more coming on this build series, so we'll just see you on the next one.